We're on with R.J. William. Let's talk. Call sign Orion.
Okay. All right.
All right, RJ. Thanks for doing this. I did have an opportunity to check out your Substack, and it really hints at a pretty diverse personal history. I mean, you've got some boxing, some firefighting, a Disney internship, even got some wrestling in there. I think that's pretty interesting. Why don't you clue us in a little bit on your life's journey and maybe some of the early influences that stoked your love for comics?
Yeah, so it is all kind of the same story. When I was coming out of high school, I was a pretty nervous kid. I actually had OCD, but I knew I wanted to write or create stories in some way for other people. Just grew up loving movies, and I got involved in what they called the Disney College Program. That's where you work somewhere in the parks, and you also take classes taught by management. You get credit for those. A lot of like the management in Disney at the time had gone through that internship. So I did that. I was a lifeguard at the hotels. And
No kidding.
Oh yeah. And people always ask like, where are your lifeguard at Disney? And then I would joke like the Tom Sawyer River, I dressed as a lost boy and pulled people out when they followed the rowboats, the canoes. But no, I was really at the hotels. And that was sort of like an exposure therapy for me, cured me of OCD, and then totally went on a different career trajectory. And now I've been firefighter, paramedic, 15 years in EMS.
Right on.
Yeah, so been doing that, but I always wanted to, have a creative outlet, and just kind of had the story form in my head over the years. It started out just like siblings who were first responders, and the inspiration of that's fairly obvious since my brother is a cop. But and then it became like I also wanted to write a space opera. I have a grandfather who was a bombardier in World War II. I even 3D printed these starfighters.
Wow.
as part of that.
That's cool.
So
hey, hold that up again. Let's take
Sure,
a good
yeah.
look at it.
This is the F-26 Aerostar. It's kind of inspired by a stealth fighter. Also, there's like the back of it.
Oh yeah.
Also kind of a combination of like the R-Wing from the Star Fox video games and like the Viper from Battlestar Galactica. I went ahead and painted this one. It got a little damaged. These are really hard to ship, apparently, so they're not available as a tier right now. But this is the one I painted, just kind of my own little amateur effort there.
Awesome, man.
But they're in the book. They're in the artwork pages that I have up on the campaign page.
Now, did you do the design of those as well?
No, we had someone help us with the 3D aspect of it.
Oh, okay.
And Luke uses it as a reference. I know 3D assets are kind of controversial in comics now. He's not copying and pasting. He's just using them as a 3D reference, as a lot of artists do with a lot of things. Because he's got to draw the same object from many angles multiple times on multiple pages, and he wants some visual consistency there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's one of the things that 3D does provide is that consistency. But I was just wondering, because if you had it 3D printed, what you were using to create them from.
I didn't actually. Yeah, I wish I don't even know those details.
Okay, no problem.
But sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, well, so continue with what I didn't mean to interrupt you on your story there.
He got excited when he saw the toys.
Yes.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, absolutely. I got excited when I saw the toys. Can't help myself.
Yeah.
I've been noticing a lot of people on X, on my X feed, that are doing these 3D modeling. David and I'll probably do some on our characters here in the near future. I think it's a really cool aspect now. And it's a great tool, like what you're using it for at this time. So
Yeah, it is a great tool to not just have a figurine, but just be able to, like, to print something like a ship and then use that as a reference to have more realistic images. So, like,
Right.
I have a proof here of this is what would be the Moss Gloss version. It's the shiny print paper, so the colors jump more. But you know, you can see on this page with the space battle, it just makes for better consistency of those ships when they're the final
absolutely.
product.
Well, I believe that the artists of the 60s would have used they did use references, any references they could find. In fact, even themselves, they used themselves as references. That's the thing, is that art is what I've told Freddy and many people. Art is it begins and ends with emotion. It's all about what you're trying to say. Everything in between is just the technology. It has so. You know, if we said, well, we can't use modern stuff because that's not art, well, then we would be making our own brushes, our own canvas. We'd be, you know, taking flowers and crushing them up so that we could get the pigments to create our paint.
Yeah.
Well, today we don't have to do that. We get to think and go straight to the creativity. So I would say never let the tools or anybody else tell you what you can't do. Go with what you can do. Take every tool that is available to you.
Exactly.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
But yeah.
So what did kind of stoke your love for comics?
What stokes my love for comics? Well,
what was the first comic book or graphic novel you saw that got you interested in saying, "Hey, I want to write for this"?
Yeah, so the first comic book I ever read was definitely one I got made fun of, which I think is now like street cred for like nerds, I guess. But yeah, it was the Sandman comic books. I was always an athletic kid, so like I would read it around like my jock friends, and they just made fun of me for reading comic books. So go figure.
Well, now it's considered an art, but
right.
It's funny that you know, not long ago it was considered the lowest form of entertainment. Today, it actually is, you know, a high form of entertainment.
Yeah, I don't know if that kids today would even do the same thing, but you know, that's just how it was back then.
Yeah. But was that one that would actually inspire you then? That inspired you to think about writing for graphic novels?
So, yeah, I knew I wanted to write when I was working as a first responder. My first idea to write was about siblings who were first responders. Very direct influence just from my life, but I also wanted to write a space opera that involved fighter pilots. Part of that was because when I was a kid, I would just rewind the Death Star trench run from Star Wars. Yeah. And just like pretend I was in the cockpit. I would rewind specifically that sequence and just sit there, especially for those POV shots where they're in the trenches. And my grandpa was a bombardier in World War II, and I think that, like, just looking up to him was a big part of that influence. So I wanted to write some kind of space opera involving fighter pilots. And I think as I got older and my worldview developed, I wanted to incorporate religious, political ideas, dystopian ideas. Then I kind of started peppering those into the background of this little science fiction universe I was slowly creating. And over time, I just had this story of these siblings, this super soldier in this universe. And then the story kind of started to unfold sort of involuntarily, I should say. And
takes on a life of its own.
Exactly. It really did. And then I wrote this script. Just sort of as a challenge to myself to see if I could write a movie script, because I always wanted to.
Yeah.
And then my friend Lisa Foyles, who some people recognize from All That and Malcolm in the Middle, she's a writer as well. Has written screenplays, novels, and she read my script and really liked it. And she suggested I find artists who could help, like, sort of do a proof of concept. So then I started going around like X and just internet communities looking for artists, and that's when I discovered Luke Stone, and started my.
So you began to kind of put your team together.
Yeah. Slowly early on, I ran to Luke Stone, and I didn't plan on him being my artist. But after he and I had like been streaming together and talking for like about a year, and I already had the script because I learned I live by Mike Barron, and we got together for coffee a few times, and I asked him to be the editor, and he read several revisions of the script, and we came up with a final draft together. It was after all that when I really decided like Luke's a amazing sequential artist. He's definitely the guy for the book.
Mm-hmm.
He could draw in the right style. He did these 4 pages that are up on there about a year ago, and I think his experience has shown he's grown a lot since he's done other books that he's done in the past. I think even in the year since then, since he did those pages, he's improved a lot. I could see it in his other work. So I'm really excited to have him as the artist. Patrick Gamma's colors were part of what drew me in. Like what the work he did on Chrome Dog in particular really got my attention.
His colors are really vibrant.
They are, and I knew I wanted to have a space battle in the nebula, so I had to have someone who could really get that right. And I just think he really does, because like if you look at this page, that looks like a light diffusing in a nebula to me.
Yeah.
And then look at this other page, and it looks like they're inside a ship. It's more interior kind of lighting.
Mm-hmm.
So the way he communicates the environment through lighting, I think, is huge. I wanted the technology, the sort of alien technology, like to shine through, and like the neonness of like their suits, for example. I want you to be able to see that, and also the pastel of the nebula gases, So all of that type of environment and world is communicated very well through the colors. So I'm really just loving the work that this creative team is doing.
This whole thing amalgamated into the identity of call sign Orion.
Absolutely.
When did you come up with that title?
Well, Otis Ryan is the name of the protagonist, and Orion is his call sign. He's the leader of the Alphas. They're basically like a Navy SEAL team, but because it's the future, they're also fighter pilots. Everyone gets around in ships in this future, and like fighter pilots, they have call signs. So Orion is him. That's part of his identity. His backstory: he carries a sword, just like mythological Orion does. It's just part of his own backstory that the audience is going to get to know over time.
So basically, the title is the main character.
The title is the main character, and he's also your introduction into a larger universe that I call the Diaspora universe.
Okay.
Great.
Wow. So what are some of the challenges you had going? You talked about that you were originally trying to do a film script or just some stories, and so you kind of slid into graphic novels. What are some of the challenges you faced by all of a sudden jumping into graphic novels as opposed to, the film script or regular stories?
Yeah, there is a complete film script, and I'm pretty proud of it, but it's very different, and it doesn't translate directly to comic books. And the challenge I learned with comic books is, like with a novel, I think it's like an airplane. Like with a novel, you're taking off an airplane from a full runway, and with a movie script, it's like an aircraft carrier, and then with a comic book, it's even whatever shorter than an aircraft carrier.
Yeah.
So you have to learn to be very concise, and that was the biggest struggle for me. Learning the pacing, getting the page count right, communicating what you want to visually on the limited panels you have to not bog down the story and make your reader bored. So that's a challenge.
So do you collaborate then with the artist and with your story, and then with what he can do? Have you make changes or anything with him as your collaborator?
In some ways I have, like mainly on like the page here, for example, there's helmets unfolding, and then there's guns that are pistols being combined into like a rifle. And communicating that was like, we went through a couple different versions, but for the most part, I really just lean on Mike Barron's experience, because he knows how to do that very well. And he kind of guided me through doing that in the script.
Now, Mike has done some work with Marvel, has he not?
Yes. Marvel,
Okay.
DC, yeah.
So he's bringing that to the table for you. I think that's awesome.
Yeah. It's truly a rare, opportunity and gift to be able to work with somebody like him.
I noticed on your Substack, you're a pretty prolific writer. I've enjoyed your posts, your blogs.
I feel like I'm just rambling sometimes.
Actually, you make a lot of sense, and it's pretty. It's well grounded, in my opinion.
Thank you.
I also noticed you were doing reviews of other indie comic creators, and I thought that was interesting too. I mean, you're building that community. Especially, I noticed a review you did on Michael Bancroft, and you also did one on Jaron Brickley that I thought were both very poignant reviews of their work. Do you have any other indie creators you're kind of on your radar?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've reviewed a few others. Kurt Parker, for one, is Between Angels and Demons series. Doc Blaylock and the Pariah series.
Mm-hmm.
John Boa, when I review Heroic Tales, I've enjoyed that one. Just a great homage to classic comic books. He's just another person, because of all the knowledge in his head and all the enthusiasm he has, I've learned a lot from. So it's been fun to be connected to these people.
I bet.
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting community. And I've noticed in my collecting over the last 10 years or so, I've gotten more of the off-label stuff rather than the big two. I'm down to my pull list now is pretty much indie type comics. Maybe the most mainstream book on my pull list would be the Ghost Machine stuff with Image. So I'm definitely gravitating to more indie type creators.
Yeah, I think Mike has told me the same thing. He doesn't really read too much Marvel DC anymore. The first thing he said about my first draft of the script was, it's better than the bleep that Marvel and DC are publishing, but you don't want to settle for that. So on one hand, I was told I was writing at professional level. On the other, it was still crap.
Well, those were good reviews. I would encourage our audience to go check your Substack out, check the reviews out, and see what you have to say about it. Introduce you to a whole new world of comics.
Yeah, I think the indies are great. A lot of these guys are trailblazers. A lot of great original ideas are in the indie world.
Now, your reviews are based on four criteria: visuals, dialogue, action, and story. How did you kind of, all the criteria you could pull together, how did you kind of focus on those four?
Well, visuals I mainly focus on just because comic books are primarily a visual medium. And I think you could learn a lot about genre and just the theme of a story through just visuals. They communicate a lot right off the bat. So that's something I do want to focus on. That's just why it's always the first thing I get to when I do a review. As far as dialogue, I think it's really like the litmus test of a writer. I often talk about like each character having their own voice, because what I find, and I'm tempted to do this, I think every writer struggles to not fall into this, is you want every character initially tends to sound like different version of the writer, but they shouldn't, because they all have their own backstory, they all have their own experiences and personalities, and they should sound unique. And the way their word choice, their actions, their everything about them, which includes their speech, should reflect their own background and just who they are as characters.
Exactly.
So that's something I pay a lot of attention to. I find the best writers, each character sounds entirely different from, one character sounds entirely different from the next.
Right. I agree.
And then the same goes with
backstory aspect. Go ahead.
Yeah, the backstory aspect, and then the same goes with dialogue. Dialogue. The temptation with dialogue is just to make it drive along the narrative, and people typically don't talk that way. If you sit around and just listen in on people's conversations, there's a lot of minutia and a lot of their own personal backstory and personality coming through in that minutia. And that's something that you do want to an extent, pepper into your dialogue, even if it is just there to drive the story.
You want to make it more real, more personal.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's challenging. And I think those two things together are really like a litmus test for a writer. So I think really reveals the writing skill, just dialogue in itself as a category.
Right.
Yeah. And then what's left? Action. Where comic books are, being a visual medium, action's a big part of it. A lot of that could be the primarily male audience in comics, although I don't think that's really so much true in webtoons anymore. But action's a big part of just the visual medium. And, because a lot of the books that I read are more action oriented, there's a lot of like fights, and my book's a very action heavy book. Mm-hmm. And my own boxing and wrestling experience does come out in writing fight scenes. Mike's the same way. He's done karate for a long time, so that comes out in his writing fight scenes. But I find that experience really helps. And it also helps me pick up when things aren't great. I find it in movies all the time too. A lot actually. And a lot of that's because, they're trying to look flashy, but I think one thing Mike and I have in common is we go for a certain amount of realism. And like, I like the movie Extraction because I think it has the most realistic fight choreography. It actually looks great on the screen. So
that's pretty good.
I try to write my fight scenes in a similar way that's believable, but also fun to watch. Yeah. And then finally, the story.
You do want that accuracy, and you do have some combat background. I know I also have a black belt, and when I'm illustrating, I want to make sure that the strikes, punches, whatever's going on there is based in some actual reality. Like if you're striking something, it should the action should be flowing with the blow.
You want the energy to go in the right direction. You don't want the character to look like that they're out of balance either, like they could fall over, type thing. You want everything to balance. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have one scene where a character, and Mike really loved this, the way it played out. So this is like something that went unchanged from the first draft. I'm kind of proud of this scene. It's where one character, who's female, is being held prisoner, and she's handcuffed, and she's got a larger male standing over her, but she's able to break out of the handcuffs unnoticed. And then I've got to think, well, how's she going to fight this guy now?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But if you understand fight mechanics well enough, you could do it in a way that's not total nonsense that you see in a lot of movies. These two don't stand toe to toe and trade blows because that's totally unrealistic given the weight difference.
Yeah, that's that physics and balance.
Right. But if it's done right, it could be believable.
Yeah.
So you now have call sign Orion in a crowdfunding campaign. Why don't we talk a little bit about that and how some of the audience, maybe they can get involved in this with you?
So right now it's up on Fund My Comic. It'll be up on other platforms just for the people that don't leave their typical platform, but I do prefer Fund My Comic, mostly because it's a free speech platform and you don't have to worry about getting kicked off for some offensive thing you might say or do. And I don't think I do that, but you never know. Now I don't have to worry about it.
There you go.
But yeah, so it's going to be up on Fund My Comic. It'll be on Storefront later when it's done. And, our goal is 6,000. I know that's kind of hefty, especially for a first-time artist, creator. But I think we'll get there. One way or another, I do plan on making sure this gets funded. But hopefully I don't have to eat ramen and stuff and just people will back it. I think it's great to back. You get these cool perks. Like I had this pop socket. I'm out of it now. This was like supplies last only. This is basically concept art. That's like functional art.
Oh,
yeah.
I still got the stickers, same concept art on the sticker. That's available for people who back now.
Yeah.
I've got the trading card up here. Lena Riley's like my news reporter character, does a lot of story exposition. Based on my friend, we were talking about, use 3D models, whatever you have to use. It's based on Lisa Foyles, who had a lot to do with the original script. She signed, this is the proof, but she signed all the trading cards. I haven't got a magnet that's an add-on. This is like the image on the patch that the Alphas wear. Because they're a fighter squadron, and the patch it's a stretch goal. It's going to have the same image on it. So I will have a patch of that. Another stretch goal is Lisa doing a cosplay cover as this character. So someone said, like, well, is there a tier with the redhead's phone number on it? No, there's not that.
Mighty fun.
That's great.
But like, I got the Moss gloss here too. Like, this is like not standard print. So this is like if you want a higher quality paper, the colors just pop out at you more. So I think it's a lot of fun.
Yep.
Well, I know David and I will be backing this, and we encourage our audience to go on and help share, bring call sign Orion to a reality for you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Every backer is very much appreciated.
I'm anxious to see this thing printed and I can hold it.
Oh yeah. It's going to be 42 pages of story and some pages of fan art as well. It was initially 2 pages of fan art, but I've had more than 2 people request fan art, and if people are going to give me good fan art, I'm too flattered to say no to them. So
yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
And there's a lot of good fan art out there. I mean, that's David and I do. We're fans and we're artists. That's and now we get to do our own comics, which is a lot of fun, and that's kind of how we've been fans of the art all our lives. And I started looking back through portfolios of some of the comic stuff we did when we were kids, and we were just fans doing fan art basically. And so today there's so many outlets for that, and I think it's awesome that you would include some of these artists in your promotions.
Yeah, I mean, I'm honored to be working with these artists, as a first-time creator. But that's just, providence, luck, good networking. I mean, take your pick. But I'm with these guys now, and I think we're creating something great.
That's awesome, man.
And that's the fun is creating. In fact, that should be the whole drive right there, is the act of creating something. It's just,
and having fun doing it. That's that's the main thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're having a lot of fun.
Good.
Everyone who's read the script has said it's fun, and Luke has often told me this is fun to draw. So it's just a fun project to be a part of, and it's going to be fun to read.
So RJ, what's in the near future for you? What do you got coming up as far as promoting your call sign Orion?
Well, just doing lots of live streams. I think this work basically sells itself, and it's about exposure and getting people seeing it, eyes on it. And so I'm going all around the indie community. On the 16th, I'll be live streaming with Elliot Rodriguez. And then on the 30th, I'll be on John's Long Box. We'll be launching the Kickstarter. So then it'll be up on multiple platforms.
Yeah, he's got a good stream.
Yeah.
That's good. Excellent, man. David, anything you want to add at this point?
I can't think of anything at the moment, but I think this was a great conversation. I'm looking forward to actually seeing this printed. It looks great.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we wish you a lot of luck with this, RJ. Oh, by the way, man, per your DM to me, congratulations to you and your wife.
Thank you.
That's pretty awesome, man.
Coming soon. Yeah, thank you very much.
That's right, man. Your brand new creation.
That's right. Yeah, speaking of creations.
A very important creation. I wish you the best in all of that, and much success with your crowdfunding achievements. And just let's go back this comic, man.
Thank you.
And as you say, Freddy, create bravely.
That's right.